I'm actually going to speak from here for two reasons. One, right now we're actually going to be using the direct marketing communication that we're going to be talking about. Stuff like podcasting, for example. We're audio recording this right now, so all of you will be able to listen to a rebroadcast, a podcast of this. And for those of you who know colleagues who should be involved in 21st century marketing, direct marketing in the 21st century with all the stuff that we're going to be talking about, they can listen to the podcast. They'll also be able to check it out on YouTube as well. One thing I want to preface is I should have called the hotel beforehand because they do have wireless internet here. And if I had brought my laptop, I could have plugged it into my camera right here and literally in the room be direct marketing to the world, live streaming over the internet. So all this type of technology that I'm talking about, from podcasting to video blogging to streaming live over the internet, is totally accessible right now, completely portable right now. All the technology that you're seeing, all the technology that's required for it, is available right now, and it's right in front of you. So all of this is available, and it may sound futuristic, but the future is now. For example, and I'm going to keep it interactive as well, and then allow Abe to kind of give a couple of ideas more visually. How many of us are, for example, on LinkedIn.com? About, I would say 80% of the room, LinkedIn. How many of us are in MySpace? Very few of us, about 5%. That may be a demographic issue. How many of us are on Facebook.com? And about maybe that's almost the same amount. May also be a demographic issue. In front of you is a quick handout that I put together, which the statistics aren't mine. It's from Nielsen. Very familiar Nielsen ratings offline. Obviously, they've gone into the online ratings as well. And you can kind of see some of the growth that's taking place in the social networking websites. And if one amazing thing to take a look at is while MySpace.com is the social networking leader. And social networking basically is stuff that we're doing here in this room, but doing it over the internet and on a computer. So while this was professional networking in a room, just imagine us as pixels on a screen, and literally chatting live in a room is what we could be doing, or we could be doing it what we call asynchronously, meaning it's not live, but as a message board. Give you a little bit of my background in this social networking world and what's happening in the blogging, podcasting world. I've grown up being a computer geek. I don't know how much I'm a computer geek anymore, but obviously I'm involved with it professionally. Back before blogs and podcasts and really the World Wide Web, before really even the internet was taking hold in a mainstream way, I was part of the world of BBSs, bulletin board systems. Does anybody remember bulletin board systems? I know Adam does, and a couple of the other geeks in the room would remember BBSs, bulletin board systems, back from the 80s and 90s. And then after, as BBSs were evolving, they evolved into live chat rooms, where telephone dial-up modems, you would live chat room in, I would piss off my parents because I would take up our only home line and tie it up all night because I'd be hanging out with my friends, quote unquote. But these are all Long Island folks, kids in other high schools, and we would be hanging out online. And back then, none of my normal friends, so to speak, my other high school friends, or even when I went to college, had any conception or idea of what that meant to be chatting online. And it's amazing for me to see how mainstream and cool it is today, where just about probably all of your kids, in one way or another, are texting each other, chatting each other, IMing each other, and they're using all the acronyms that I used back in high school and all the emoticon smileys that I used back in high school. And to see it now being part of Americana culture, where now even on the Pepsi label, there's an emoticon. And these are really crazy things for me to be watching. And I just joked with my dad just the other day that, hey, it turned out that it was a good idea for me to skip the homework and actually spend time online chatting with my friends, because it's actually made more of a difference for me professionally than any of my homework. So from that aspect, as your kids are doing this in a very high-tech world, one thing I tell you guys is it's an awesome opportunity for you to develop a further relationship with your kids and to stay in touch with the direct marketing opportunities of Facebook, MySpace, and the other social networking sites by learning with them, through them, and also keeping an eye on them as well. Because, of course, like any parts of the world, there's the good parts and the bad parts. So while they may be embarrassed to show you their MySpace page or Facebook page, it's probably a good idea for you to check it out. But more importantly, professionally, you're going to be able to understand how it is to access at least their demographic using this direct marketing channel. So with that in mind, you can kind of see some of the statistics that are happening right now. MySpace right now is still the #1 site, but this is from last year to this year, 06 to 07. They grew about 20%, which is great. I mean, all of us would want at least 20% growth on a day-to-day, year-to-year basis, but that's not really internet growth. You know what I mean? That's not really the types of growth that we want to hear when we start talking about the wild world web. But you look at Facebook, it grew 125%, more than double. And it's more on the rise with our age group of professional people than it is even with the younger folks who may be in high school or college. They started out being a college-exclusive website. They opened up to everybody about last year or so, I think, that they allowed where even non.edu folks, non-college kids can have access. And what they did somewhat remarkably recently was even open up their database, which gives a tremendous opportunities, and I'm sure Abe will talk about the kinds of opportunity that gives us as marketing folks with Facebook and other social networks like that. The reason I bring it up is because this is just an example of what's happening in the direct marketing world. If you go on the bottom side, I'm going to spend a little bit more time on these statistics. These are the top 10 blogging platforms. Nielsen called it top 10 blogs. These are not necessarily the top 10 blogs on the internet, which I'll talk about who are they, but these are the blogging platforms. One of the things that, very often as teachers and lecturers and public speakers you learn not to ask are the ones that, question that may put people in an awkward position. But I don't want to overspeak or underspeak. Does anybody not really know what the word blog means, or that's like a very weird term? Maybe they've heard it, they don't know exactly what that even means. And don't be shy because I'll define it. Anyone? Okay, so we're all pretty familiar with the blog. How many people have been on a blog? Good majority of the room. How many people have commented on a blog? Like almost half of that. So tremendously low. How many people have a blog? 2 people, including me. 3 people. 4 people, Andy in the back. So that's 4 people out of a room of about maybe 45, 50 folks. About maybe 30 of us have been on a blog. 20 of us, if not less, have actually commented on a blog. And maybe only 5 of us actually have a blog. That's pretty much what those statistics are professionally. I can ask the same statistics as I do for my other lectures in terms of how many people have had websites or personal websites. And so a question I'll ask, how many of us have a website very often that's ourname.com? Like vikramrajan.com, for example, that you grabbed it for eternity. Great. I just gifted one of my family friends. Their kid just turned 1 year old, and I gave the kid, Vijay, a present, and I gave his domain name as a gift. And which my dad joked and said, great, you just cost the family $10 every month. But I'm like, all right, fair enough. Now they have to host it, they have to do everything with it. But you know what? Grab your real estate on the internet, especially as you start thinking about your own personal brand in terms of your career or a self-employed practice. So what I help professionals do in terms of personal branding, one of the quick things you can do is grab your portion of the real estate, grab your name. And if you're thinking, no one's going to really grab my name, trust me, they're going to grab your name. Especially as you become more and more well-known, people are going to grab your name. So grab it. It costs relatively a couple of bucks on a variety of registration sites. And you're starting to get into this world of having a Google presence for yourself and for your clients. As we know, we should be having multiple domain addresses that go to multiple different types of websites in a direct marketing aspect. The beauty of this concept of Web 2.0, which is a buzz phrase to talk about the interactive components of the Internet. Has anyone not heard of that phrase, Web 2.0? So not heard of. A couple of folks haven't heard of Web 2.0. Web 2.0 or social media are these jargon buzz phrases that have kind of been created to be a catch-all for all the stuff that we're going to be talking about today. It's not necessarily the next version of the Internet in terms of technology, because the technology of the Internet really is evolving in day-to-day perspective. But what it is a catch-all to talk about really the original purpose of the Internet. It's a network. It's us as human beings, people coming together. That's the power of the Internet, that we have the world's knowledge and the world's people over a period of time all interconnected. And what I believe is really the greatest invention of humanity. I think it's phenomenal, and we're just getting started. So one of the quick things that we could think about in terms of how to use direct marketing, how to use blogging, podcast, video, etc. in terms of direct marketing is the buzz that we're able to get just from blogging and social